BTC Gambler here. I hope you're well, guys and girls. Today I'm going to take you on a journey. I'm going to take you on a journey to talk about Project Alphaverse. And if you don't know what Project Alphaverse is, I will briefly explain it in this video. There are other videos that go into much more detail. But if you're new here, welcome. Welcome to the world of Mr. BTC Gambler and welcome to Alphaverse. I've got lots of news to update you all, but today I'm going to take you guys on a journey to understand what this is all about. So if you're not familiar with this, this is a new form of gambling, guys. This is something so unique that nobody else is doing this. This was an invention. It was an idea that came about. You know, I look for people just like you. If you're a tinkerer, you know, if you want to not play the way the casino want you to play, but you can play in your way, you know, and that is through using coding, bots, statistics, mathematics and science, you know, not blindly following playing the way that the casino want you to play, because you will be disadvantaged. So my job is to make you guys into educated gamblers, and that's been my main journey throughout the last couple of years that I've been running Mr. BTC Gambler. It's been a bumpy road, and I've had a bumpy road on the basis that YouTube banned me, then I created another channel and I screwed that up, and then I've got a new YouTube channel now. So please, if you're watching this, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and hit that like button, because one thing I'm severely aware of is that since I created a new channel, my view count and my subscribers are a fraction of where they used to be, and I'm trying my damnedest to get those numbers back up. So I'm begging you, please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification. For those that don't know what you're looking at here, this is a system I developed and it's called Alphaverse. You know, and what Alphaverse is, it came about because, and there's going to be some really key information in here, so I'm going to please ask you to pay attention. And I'm going to explain what led up to Alphaverse. Why does it even exist? What is Alphaverse? So that's basically what this video is about. What is Alphaverse? What was the journey? Why was it needed? And more importantly, how do you gain access to it? Okay, so there's going to be some big changes today, and I'm going to need your help. Okay. So my journey on Alphaverse started quite a while back, guys. I mean, like, it was a tool that I developed because I had an idea. You know, I had an idea, and you know, and I'm going to show you the iteration and the history of how Alphaverse came about in the very first place. If you're not familiar with it, you know, I used to gamble using Singetti's dice bot, and I have to say, I became quite proficient in coding. So rather than gambling, you know, in the way the casino wanted to gamble, I like to code. And I like to code to play very different strategies that are impossible to play on the casino website, because you can code pretty much anything. And I learned this code and the language called Lua. And if you're not familiar with DiceBot, so if you're not familiar with it, guys, this is what DiceBot looks like. But it's what it looks like today anyway. The original Singetti's DiceBot has stopped being developed, and obviously there were changes at the casino where they put Cloudflare in front of it, and the original DiceBot does not work anymore. But this has been developed, and the version that I am using, as you can see here, it's a fork of Singetti's DiceBot, but Win Machine has done a fantastic job in actually making it work, and this works absolutely fine. And here you can program in Lua different things. So fundamentally it is a dice bot, and it's designed to run dice. You can't play any other games in it, but if you just want to run a strategy on dice, and I had lots of ideas, and one of the codes that I came up with was something called the Infinity Code, and it was a piece of code designed, you know, not to win, not to lose, but just to wager and get the VIP perks. And I do bleat on a lot about that because I'm not an expert coder, and I just do what I know works for me. Okay, but there are other smarter people out there that have much better code, and I have to say I've seen some really sophisticated codes to sit within DiceBot. Now, when I was playing this, one of the things that I come across, and there's a really important point to note here, so it's going to be important to know this later on in the video. One of the things that I discovered with DiceBot was it was immensely stupid. So like if I did a bet and I was winning and winning, and then I eventually lose all my money, when you went into the console, you would see it was repeatedly trying the same bet over again. And all this betting is done via API, and the API response was coming back saying not enough funds, and it would just literally try it over and over again. It was so dumb, so stupid. And then something clicked in my brain, and I thought, wow, actually, that's immensely powerful, because when you sit there and think about this, what this gives you, what you don't have on the website, or on a lot of other bots, to be honest with you, is once that's game over, that's game over. When you're running code, especially sophisticated code, you're embedding what the next sequence is in the bet. So if it's stopped because you run out of funds, you kind of lost. It's very difficult to pick up where you was. But if you've got a piece of code that is trying over and over again, but it can't, and it's getting back a response saying there's not enough funds, well, think about that, guys. If you got that, you could simply just like top up some extra money, and if you're playing the right strategy, you only need one win and you got full recovery. And I ran like that for ages. I saw this as a glitch, and I called it the DiceBot glitch. And I think that's a really important thing to note, because I know it's not a glitch. I know people tell me off for calling it glitch, and it's a feature, but I don't think it was programmed to do that. It was just an accident byproduct of just the code being for the DiceBot being so simplistic. It didn't have any checking to see whether you had the ability to create a net bet, so it just kept trying over and over again. And that's what I exploited, because when the DiceBot gives you protection, because when you run out of funds, you simply need to just top up in the background, and it will pick off exactly where it left off. And that you only need one win with the right strategy to recover your losses, and that gives you a level of protection. And this is why I way prefer gambling in a bot rather than gambling on the website, because when it's game over, it's game over. Yeah, you can't pick up where you left off. But with DiceBot and a lot of other bots now, this was a feature that I could immediately saw the power of. And then when I discovered this, my mind went a million miles an hour, guys, and I had these crazy ideas, and I thought, whoa, why stop here? Why couldn't I run multiple bots, and I could have like a centralized pot of funds that I could share across multiple accounts? And you know what? I did exactly that, and I'll show you. I will show you. So before Alphaverse even existed, the concept of what Alphaverse is came about because I was doing it manually. And there may well be some of you out there doing this right now. Okay? So I ran 11 bots, and each of those bots was on a independent virtual machine. And then I went off and trained everybody else how to do the same. And I wrote this document that says, I want to be free. But the principal idea with it was I run lots of bots, and each bot was protected by a shared recovery pot. And it was a great idea, but the reality of it was all manual. It was an all-consuming task, and it wasn't practically viable, and you couldn't scale it too much. And it was a lot of work. I mean, like an awful lot of work. Building like even just 11 virtual machines on your machine and then managing the funds and juggling it around, it became a full-time job. And the invention of Alphaverse was, could I automate that? And it was a question that pretty much a lot of people were asking, and this is what Alphaverse is. And I'm going to just give you a quick overview of what Alphaverse does and all of the features that are in it, and you will see how far we come. And it's amazing how far we've come. So first off, I'm going to point out, we're no longer at 11 bots. We're 100. I'm at 166. And the whole idea of a recovery part, which are the green ones here, is now fully automated. So hopefully we'll see one in a minute. We'll see a bust. It will detect a bust, and it's going to shift the funds around. So a quick overview. At the top bar here, we've got global statistics. How much is in the balance across all accounts? How much profit's been made across all accounts? How many bets an hour am I getting? Look at this, guys. Look at this. This is not at full capacity yet. I'm averaging about 1.8 million bets per hour. 1.8 million bets per hour. And I have to say that will be the single biggest determining factor, because think about this. The more bets you can do, and this gives you a form of protection, the lower stake you can apply. So you can stake like micro gambling here, but still wager the same amount because you're doing it in such a scale. So looking at the maths on that, I'm doing at 1.8 million bets per hour. That would be 43.2 million bets per day. 302 million, so over a quarter of a billion bets a week. Things have fundamentally changed, guys. Obviously, globally it tells you how much it wagers, how many clients you got, what the uptime is, and there's a little note button here, and it's designed for you guys out there. If you want to stream this, I put in there some protection so that it blurs out the sensitive data, like the username, the IP address, and such forth. It's designed out there for you streamers, or if you want to talk to people and you want to share your screen, just blur out the sensitive stuff. So security has been considered within this. Now we have all these columns. Okay, but each row represents one account. So we've got the account, what VIP level they're at, how much is in the balance, how much is in the vault, what the status is, how many bets an hour we're getting on it. And then there's information about which version of the code. And these are relevant to the codes. It keeps account of how many times it's bust, what the profit is, how much has been wagered, how many losses, how many wins. And they're useful to know in terms of, just validating that nothing's out of the ordinary, what the current bet size is, what the current streak is, whether you're in a loss streak or a win streak. And it keeps a track of the maximum loss streak. Here is where it just keeps the IP address, and that's really important. Really, really important, guys. So Alphaverse is really supported by Stake. So Eddie, who's probably one of my heroes, he's been absolutely supportive of Alphaverse. And and if you have missed BTC Gamble in your welcome offer, they come with a level of protection. Now, Eddie has fixed the number of accounts that were blocked. It comes along with an extra level of protection. But he did say to me at one point, I was causing him issues because too many machines had the same IP address. So what we've done now is we've coded it so we try our best that every single client has a unique IP address, because I don't want to break things on the casino side. I want to just be in line with them, and so the code is written in such a way. But I don't want to go too much into detail now, but that shows the IP address. This RT is the return time trip. So this is an API request, and it's not a ping. It's telling me how long does it respond to an API request. So if anything funky is going on, you've been rate limited or whatever, just change VPN locations. And here was when the last bet was, and there is a check in here. If it hasn't bet for a while, it comes to the top. If something's broken, it will let me know what the uptime of the bot is. And that's the main view. Now here we've got some individual controls of the machine, so we can pause the betting, we can withdraw the vault, we can restart the dice bot, and if we drop down here, we've got some options to shift funds around, so you can tip money to another account, or you can send your vault to another account, and that's all well and good. And then we have a couple of global buttons up at the top here which relate to all of them. So this one here, for example, will pause all the bots, which is pretty neat, I have to say. That's very handy. It's like an emergency stop. And this one here will restart them all. Now this one is a magic button here. This allows me to run commands on every single client, and I won't go into too much detail in this video here, but it's a very, very handy tool. So if you wanted to change strategies, you can write some code, you change the strategy, click that button, and all clients will update with a new code. This is a time saver that is immensely useful. So Alphaverse is free, guys. I'm not charging for it, okay? It's taken me a number of years, but what I've done is, instead of charging a license fee for it, Alphaverse has been coded so it only runs on accounts with Mr. BTC Gamble in the welcome offer. And it is in your interest to do that because, one, these come along with protection. You know, if you get any issues with the account, I can get them fixed. And two, they've got instant rate back on the accounts, and you're going to want rate back on your account as well. So there are advantages of using Mr. BTC Gamble, but the main advantage, it just won't run unless it has got Mr. BTC Gamble and welcome offer. This is how I get paid for the software, guys. It's through the affiliate funds and not through you charging you guys. You get the software for free, but you should create accounts with Mr. BTC Gambler in the welcome offer. Does that make sense? Yeah, and what I'm going to be announcing today is that this would no longer require you to sign up to a software license agreement. This is freely available to anybody, with the only caveat is that you have to be a VIP member in my Discord. So my Discord server, with the link to my Discord will be in the description of this video. There'll be an invitation link, and you're going to need that because running Alphaverse is not easy. You know, it requires some skills. And there are a bunch of tutorials in here that teaches you how to set it all up, how to run a strategy, how to create the accounts. It teaches you everything you need to run Alphaverse. But it's only available to VIP members. Now, to become a VIP, there's an expected level of knowledge already. And I had this PDF document that says, I want to be free. I want to be free to innovate, to seize the world, to seize the moment. And, you know, not be locked down to a 9-to-5 job. You know, that was the whole idea. You know, a theme running throughout all of Mr. BTC Gambler was, I want to be free. So, and I had produced this PDF document that pretty much teaches you how to set up that kind of 11 bot scenario where you run DiceBot. You know, a lot of that is irrelevant today, but some of the skills in there are still absolutely relevant. So when you come and join Discord, you will actually be asked 8 questions. Now, one of them I've answered already, okay? And one of the questions is like, what is the DiceBot's glitch? And I've already explained what that is. It's immensely powerful because that DiceBot glitch, I've intentionally programmed exactly the same glitch or feature within Alphaverse. It does exactly the same. You never actually really bust. It just repeatedly tries to bet over and over again. And when it's a bust situation, and I'm hoping we're going to see one here, you'll see that it sends out a beacon alert. And what I didn't explain in here, Alphaverse is basically made up of 3 components. So you have a server, and we're looking at the server page now. You know, the server page runs the web page, but it also runs as the master orchestrator. You know, it has no ability to communicate to the casinos in any way whatsoever. Doesn't even need to be connected to the internet. But all of the clients talk to the server under TCP sockets, and it sends its status report to it. And the server decides what to do based on those status report. The server knows who's got the recovery pots. And so it can issue commands down to each individual client to do certain tasks and actions only on the basis that it thinks it is able to do that. So in other words, like if it says send your vault to player X, then it's assuming, that person has the right configuration set up, so it's got the right API keys, right username, right password. Because server doesn't know any of that. It's just issuing commands on the basis that it can do that. And there's built-in mechanisms if that doesn't work, it tries something else. Okay. So there's built-in sort of like levels of resilience. So that basically is the first part. The second part is you've got a client, and each client runs on its own independent virtual machine in order to maintain a unique IP address. Yeah, and on that client, we run 3 things. So first off, we run what we call a client software, and this client software talks to the server with all its status updates, and it talks to the casino as well. It doesn't do the betting, but it kind of gets the status and everything. And if I can show you one, like for example, so I've just run a putty session to one of these clients. So I'm using something called Screen. Screen is like a virtual monitor. Yeah, and I've got various screens. I've got a screen for the dice bar, and I've got a screen for the client code. And we're talking about the client code here because, yeah, and think of like Screen as a virtual monitor. So in that virtual monitor, you can run code. So in this code for the screen, in this code for the client, I'm running the client code. And if we look at the client code, what it's doing is talking to the casino, it's getting your balance, and it's checking its status report, and it's updating the server. It's not doing any betting. Now if we look at the dice bot screen, here's the actual betting. It's API betting. Yeah. So, and the final piece of the jigsaw, I mean, this whole thing runs on Ubuntu, and yeah, when Stake introduced Cloudflare to protect their casino, you could no longer do API betting, and to overcome that, what we do is this is running an agent that was built that acts as a reverse proxy. So it's using Electron, and it's got Chromium installed. And Chromium is just basically, it's a web browser. But what it does, it allows me to obtain the Cloudflare session cookie and sustain it. And it's acting as a reverse proxy. So it sits there, listens to its loopback address and port 8080, and then forwards them onto the casino via Chromium with all the right header information, so that it can basically continue to bet on API betting. And when we run the API betting on the DiceBot side, we are saying that the URL to connect to the casino is the local host, not the casino. And it's this that acts as the intermediary to listen on those, pick up those API requests, and then forward them onto the casino. You cannot run it without this. So this agent fixed so many issues that basically stopped API betting for a long period of time. And it's now been resolved. Just, doing it this way. Works really well. So every client's got that. So just reiterate. So Alphaverse has a server. The server does orchestration. It's got a web page for the administration here. Client has 3 parts to it. It's got a client code that sits in a screen that talks to the casino and a server. It's got the DiceBot code that does the actual gambling, and then it's got this Alphaverse agent that acts as an intermediary proxy to allow API betting to function. Now, if you're familiar with Lua, you'll be familiar with Alphaverse. So I'm going to show you an example code. So if you're familiar with writing code in Lua, you'll be familiar with writing code in Alphaverse. So all the magic really happens way down deep in the code, which you don't need to worry about. But if you're familiar in defining variables, and then the only bit that you need to think about is the do bet. I mean, this is basically the bet here, and this is where you can determine anything. And the beauty of running Alphaverse is you're not stuck with just dice. You can run any of the Stake Originals games. So this example, I'm using Dragon Tower. So I don't want to go too much detail in this particular video, but just know that actually coding for Alphaverse is not that difficult if you come from the DiceBot world. And it's really quite intuitive because you can code not only just DiceBot, but like I say, any Originals games, but you can do such inventive code. Like I've written code that changes games mid-strategy. It's impossible to do that in any other way. Yes. So you can use tools like Qbot and other bits and pieces, which is really great. And I'm a big fan. And yeah, everybody that is going to run Alphaverse is going to need a copy of Qbot. And you're going to tell you why later. But yeah, there'll be a link to Qbot in the description. I highly encourage you, if you're going to run Alphaverse, you're definitely going to need Qbot, because it's there that you devise all your strategies, and it's there you can thoroughly test them, and then you can transpose those into Alphaverse. Please, if you're going to use Alphaverse, I highly encourage you to go and buy a copy of Qbot. The author of Qbot is a friend of mine, and you can show your appreciation by letting him know that Mr. BTC Gambler sent you to buy the bot, and that will be through the referral link that's below. It just shows our appreciation, because he had a big part in Alphaverse, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without his help. So that brings us back here. So we're back in Alphaverse. As I said, you can see 1.8 million bets per hour. 1.8 million bets per hour. Let that sink in for a moment. We have yet to see a bust, and I was hoping to be able to show you one. It may or may not happen on this video, but what will happen is it will report bust. That sends out an emergency beacon to the server. The server goes, who's got a recovery pot? And see these green ones? There's lots of them dotted around. It sends a message to say, send the recovery pot. Well, first it's like a multi-stage process. It pauses the bot, it withdraws the recovery pot value into its balance, and then it tips. And all the 2FA function is encoded into the software as well. So it tips the amount across, and then the bet continues. And like I said, with the right strategy, just one win is full recovery. And then when that one wins, it puts that recovery pot into its vault, and then that becomes a recovery pot holder. So the recovery pots shift around. I'm hoping all this is making sense. So, which leads nicely, because this is now available to everybody, but only members of my VIP. Yeah, you've got to be a VIP member, because there's a certain level of expectation of knowledge. Even though the information that says I want to be free is no longer relevant, the fundamental principles behind it are still relevant. So I've already answered one of the questions. In the VIP application form, I'll be asking you, because in that document, I talk you through that I want to be free document, which includes quite an extensive video, step-by-step instructions. And I have to say, TLDR. So it teaches you about, first off, VirtualBox. What is VirtualBox? VirtualBox is a type 2 hypervisor. And what I mean by type 2, it means it sits on top of your operating system, so you can install it in Windows. So you think about it, you've got your Windows operating system running, then you install VirtualBox, and then you run virtual machines inside your virtual machine. That's why it's called a type 2 hypervisor. So it's a type 2 hypervisor that runs on your Windows machine, that allows you to run multiple copies of whatever operating system you're running. Now we're running Ubuntu Linux, and the specification required to run each of these is, if on I Want to Be Free video, we allocated 1 gig of RAM and 2 virtual CPUs. On Ubuntu, because we're running Ubuntu desktop now, we now allocate 2 gigs of RAM and 2 virtual CPUs. So if you're going to run lots of them, you're going to need quite a beefy machine. And that's one of the questions in the VIP. So pay attention to this. So if you want to pass, I'm going to give you all the answers. You just have to listen. Okay, you can make note of these. Now, in order for each IP address to have a unique IP address, I am using PIA, so private internet access. And the reason I'm using private internet access is very, very simply, it's that they are one of the largest VPN providers. There are loads of them, and I have tried loads of them, but they seem to be the only one that I'm able to get, a unique IP address. I've written a really sophisticated bash script that goes off and checks to see whether the IP address has been used for, and it automatically keeps trying until it's found a unique IP address. And I need a really large pool of IP addresses, and PIA happens to be one of those. Now, if you was to buy PIA, and I don't know whether this is factually correct, and I'm beginning to question my own doubt, but when I first signed up to PIA, the maximum number of accounts that you were allowed to run on one account was 11. So I have like 15 accounts on PIA to run my Alphaverse. Now, subsequently, I have to say, I've been testing and I've got multiple accounts and I've gone way above 11 on many accounts, and it seems to still work. So I don't know if they've changed, but in the question, I asked you how many PIA accounts, how many accounts can you run with PIA, and the answer is 11. But that was truthful knowledge at the time, but that may be factually incorrect. But that's the answer I'm looking for. And the reason I ask those questions is because this tells me whether you're diligent. Because if you listen, I actually answer every single question for you. But if you don't listen, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to answer the questions. Now, another thing that I ask is about aged Gmails. When I first started this, I was using Gmail. Gmail has become very challenging. I have to say, out of all of this that I do, the most difficult thing I have to face is Gmail. Gmail is a bitch, really difficult. I have actually lost a number of accounts, not because of the casino, but because of bloody Gmail. I highly advise, there is an updated version in there, but for the purpose of this video, in order for you to gain access to a VIP, the reason I buy aged Gmail accounts is because one of the checks that the casino do is to say how old is the email account, and if it's a brand new account, they get suspicious. So, but none of that's really relevant, to be honest with you, because one, these come along with protection anyway, so absolutely doesn't matter. And so that question, unfortunately, is irrelevant. But the answer to the question is, why do you need to purchase aged Gmail accounts? Is because it's one of the methods that the casinos use to determine whether you're creating alt accounts. If you've got a brand new, because they may not be able to see the email, but what they can see is the creation date, and that's why we buy aged Gmail accounts. And the other one is, like, when I do create accounts, I use a website called Fakery, and Fakery is really great. I mean, like, I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, here's the website here. So fakec.com. Anyway, it gives you creates a random person, the name, the address, the date of birth, their town, the zip code, the gender. It's really, really good. So I use that to just use it when I'm creating accounts. And I just use it. And I'm using German accounts, even though Germany's actually banned in there. It seems to be absolutely fine. And that's one of the questions in the VIP as well, is how do you create fake addresses? But the answer is you go to fake. So there's more than one website. There's no exact answer on that, but basically go to websites that give fake details. And the final question is it's obvious. If you don't know this, it's shocking. What do you put in your welcome offer? What is the welcome offer for if you sign up for a new account? Guys, that's Mr. BTC Gambler. Mr. BTC Gambler. If you don't put that in there, then it won't work. Alphaverse won't work for you. Right, we're pretty much done on this video. This is a long ongoing project, I have to say, but I still feel that we're at the start of a journey. A soft start is something great. So, and I need your help. Because, like I said, we're going to be doing work over in Discord, especially around this Alphaverse section here, because this needs populating out. And if you've got any ideas, this is the place to put it. If you've got, come along to chat, you have to be a VIP in here. And if you've got ideas and suggestions, how we should structure Discord to make it easy for everybody. That's my job, is to try and make your job as easy as possible and to educate as best as I possibly can. Yeah, and that pretty much concludes the video, guys. So, Alphaverse, big news. Don't have to sign a software license agreement. It is available to everybody, and you have to be a VIP. And I've given you every answer to every question in this video, how you become a VIP. I hope this has been useful to you. I welcome feedback, and I'm looking forward to speak to you all again soon. So, speak to you soon, guys.